Hello and welcome to episode 6 of SeaPeople Live. This episode is all about getting from the couch to the cockpit, from dream to departure. And we are so excited here today to have with us Sis and Leo. They are aboard. Yeah, why don't you actually tell us a little bit about your boat? Tell us the name of the name that I'm going to butcher if I even try. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and let you guys introduce yourselves. Go ahead, Sis.
I'm Sis, and our project is called DRØMME I Sigte in Danish, but Dreams Inside in English. And we are sailing around the world on Lulu Tao at the moment.
Awesome.
And Leo.
Yeah, I'm Leo, and yeah, Sis and I, we know each other from high school, and we started this project 4 years ago now. And yeah, we didn't really have any sailing experience. We also did not have a ton of money in our bank account, but we were really we loved diving. We've both been working as divers, and we just had a huge dream, wanted to sail around the world to find the world's greatest dive sites, and set ourselves a goal to leave 2 years later. And now we've been sailing for 2 years and almost halfway around the world. Yeah, we're currently in French Polynesia, or Sissel is at least. Because, yeah, obviously we're not together right now.
Awesome. Yeah, so we're super excited on these live webinars / podcasts to get people like Leo and Sis on here to be able to chat with us where they have expertise. We've brought some really cool experts to these episodes, and we really want to focus this one for all of you on making dreams a reality. There's a lot of dreamers. There's a lot of people out there, hopefully listening to this, that want to go. They want to make it happen, but it's a very scary thing to bite off. And as well, something I think you both excel at is keeping your hobbies alive when you're out there and you are aboard. And that's a hard thing to do. People that haven't been cruising before don't really understand how hard it is to keep the hobbies alive when you get cruising and you have all these distractions. So these are live, these are real, connections can be lost. Sis is working on her boat, working from her boat right now with Starlink, and Leo is in a field in British Columbia. We, at any point in time, we could have a blackout here, but we'll roll with it. So my name is Logan, by the way. I'm one of the co-founders here at SeaPeople and your host of this SeaPeople Live episode. I want to get started a little bit by chatting with you both about the dream phase. So when did it become real? Can we start there? Let's back up a little bit. You're 23 years old. You're high school friends. You've been diving in Thailand with each other. And at some point, one of you says to the other, I'm assuming, we should sail around the world? Or did you say that at the exact same time, twins? Whose idea was it and where did it come from?
It was Leo's.
Yeah, we had both been living in Thailand and working together. We traveled together ever since we finished high school. And Sissel, we both did our professional dive courses in Thailand, and we had been, traveling back and forth to there for 3 years. And at some point, we felt like there was an entire world to also explore that wasn't just Koh Tao in Thailand. And it's not really that simple as that we just woke up one morning and thought, oh, let's sail around the world. It was like a lot of things happening in life, I think, that eventually led to this decision. One of them being that once we were done living in Thailand, my dad, who's been sailing since he was a kid, he picked up his grandparents' boat and he brought me and Sissel sailing for a summer. We kidnapped Sissel actually for sail. And just completely...
Not they actually did.
Yeah. and just completely fell in love with the idea of combining sailing with diving and being able to get to all these dive sites that you maybe can't otherwise, or you have to fly to. And Sissel, you had just started university at that point, or just applied to start university. And we went to crew on a boat in French Polynesia as well after having sailed with my dad. And spent some months on another Danish boat in Paradise. And it was really hard to be in French Polynesia, diving and sailing and not falling in love with the idea of doing it ourselves. But we also didn't really think that it was something we could do ourselves. Like, how would we buy the boat, and how would we ever get the right sailing experience? And I think we had this idea that people would have had to have been sailing for their entire lives if you want to do this when you're 23 years old.
Yeah.
Since we came back from that trip, I think I was just constantly looking at boats and wondering, oh, imagine if we could get this boat or do what these guys were doing that we just visited. And I was speaking a lot to my dad about it, and he wanted to sail around the world, and Sissel and I was like, oh, let's join him when he's doing it. But then one morning when he was driving me to work, actually, and I still kept blabbing about wanting to buy boats, and now I had found this boat, and he just looked at me and he was like, why don't you just do it? And I think we just needed this one adult person around us to say, of course you can do it if you really want it. And that morning he dropped me off at work. I went in before even calling to Sissel because I knew she was going to be on board with the idea. And I just went into my job and I was like, okay, I'm going to sail around the world in 2 years. And I called Sissel and asked her if she wanted to sail around the world. And she was like, yeah, we can do that.
Was that the relationship, Sissel, that you had in high school? Was Leo kind of the one instigating the troublemaking and the adventures and all of that stuff and dragging you into it, or was it unique for this experience?
No, this has been throughout our entire friendship. It was also Leo
Yeah.
who I wanted to go travel and I wanted to stay 2 months with her in Koh Tao, and Leo was like, "But why don't you just move there instead of just going for a trip?" It's like, well, okay, fair enough. And then she was like, "Okay, so we're gonna crew out on a boat in French Polynesia, and it's not like, do you want to come? But we are going. Okay, let's do that then." And Leo felt that it was so much like anti-climax because she was so hyped and she called me and she was like, "We are gonna sail around the world," and like my reaction was, "Okay."
Yeah.
Because I just normally say yes to all of the ideas that she throws up in the air. So I was like, okay. And she's like, "Why are you not stoked?" I was like, "Because we have $800 compared in our bank accounts, and I'm starting to study in 3 weeks, but let's do it."
I think that a lot of people in life need, whether it's that person like your dad or that partner in crime like Leo and Sissel have in each other. And a lot of people find in their spouse or their boyfriend or their girlfriend later on to something that would be absolutely petrifying to take on alone. And you're going, well, if they don't think this is crazy, maybe this isn't that crazy. Maybe we can do this.
Yeah.
So you had
Yeah,
800
basically.
bucks or $80 or whatever you have in your bank account. If anybody is watching this, they can see that Sissel's sitting on a boat right now. So we're not going to fast forward quite yet, but obviously they found a boat. That is possibly the scariest thing for anybody trying to get going. If you're truly sitting on the couch right now and you're trying to figure out how to go, the budget is like the scariest thing. So yeah, what'd you do? You're looking at each other going, we want this. We're going to go, we've fallen in love with this in French Polynesia. We want to make it our reality. You're looking at boats online. Then what?
I remember someone saying to us very early in the project that at some point we should make a budget, like for what it would cost us, and also to refit the boat and blah blah blah. And then we should take that budget and we should double it, and that
Yeah.
would be like what we could expect. And I think we can safely say that we should have taken that budget and we should have timed it by 10.
10.
It is so much more expensive than we imagined. But I think a part of the beauty of our story was that we didn't know. We were quite naive when we started this project. We didn't have the experience to say, oh, we're going to need this for the boat and blah, blah, blah. And I think because we didn't really know, we just dove into it a bit. Oh, yeah, sure, we can do this. And
Yeah.
then once, like, we just did one small step at a time, and whenever we had stepped one step forward, we've had to follow with the other step. And like at some point we were just so deep into it that whenever there was issues, we also had to just find a solution for it. Basically what we did was obviously to start saving up a lot of money as fast as possible, and we set a goal for when we wanted to leave Denmark, and that was 2 years later. And so we knew we needed to buy a boat pretty fast so that we could get to know it and refit it and learn how to really properly sail it, obviously, before leaving for circumnavigation. We also knew that we were going to have to take a bank loan to buy the boat, which is actually what we ended up doing. And it was a really long process. And it was also really hard to find a bank that wanted to
Yeah,
lend
of
us money
course.
for this.
Yeah, of course.
But yeah, basically we just started working as much as we could. I was lucky to be working in a place full time in Denmark where I could just take as many hours as I wanted to. Sissel was working 3 jobs aside from studying in the meantime, and we just saved up all the money for the down payment of a bank loan. And
Which
it
is how
took
much in
us,
Denmark? What is that? Is that 10%, 20%? What kind of money did you guys have to scrounge together?
I know it's small. Let me just see in
We
a
put
in
down
the
one
currency that
third.
everyone
We
else
put
will understand.
we down payment. We put down
Yeah, one
one
third of
third the bank loan.
Oh, okay. Wow. Okay, that's a substantial amount
Also,
then. Yeah.
yes, also because it's not like lending money for a house or anything. It's more like lending money for a car, something that will decrease in
depreciate.
value no
Yeah.
matter what you do.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And that's something you're
But
budgeting for
one of
yourselves too, right? You're thinking about, hey, we're putting this money in and this is a depreciating asset. I'm sure it's something that's on your mind and part of what you're factoring into your life budget.
I
Well,
think
it doesn't matter that much, because if we didn't do it this way, then we wouldn't be able to live the lifestyle that
Mhm.
we're living. So even though that we know we're gonna lose money on the boat, it's gonna be all worth it, because we couldn't
Yeah.
be able to do all of the things that we wanted if we didn't have the boat.
Yeah, 100%. Cool.
I'll say that if you can avoid buying a boat through a bank loan, it's definitely worth it not to do it, because it's also super, super expensive. But for us, we pay $1,500 approximately a month, or a bit less, $1,200 maybe a month, to the bank for a bank loan, and our interest is quite high. But we just have to look at it as if we were paying rent in an apartment at home.
Mhm.
We would pay at least the same, and this is between the two of us. And it enables us to live like the life we always dreamed of doing. So it's, for us, it's 100% worth it. But most people know that buying boats aren't really like great investments.
Yeah,
It's
it's a
not
life
going to give you
investment.
cash back.
It's the experience investment. I think it's a good parallel though to draw with, like, with rent, right? You're living somewhere, you're not putting equity in anything with rent. You're not going to have anything to show for it. And with the boat, you'll have something to sell at the end, hopefully. And yeah, you're writing it off into a living expense essentially, right?
Yeah, exactly. If ever when we sell the boat, if only we can like at least sell it for the amount of money that we still have in the bank loan, then in the end, if we would have done an entire circumnavigation by paying 33% of the boat of the price, then I think we're pretty lucky, really.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, so you
And can
find a
I
boat. Yeah, go please.
add one thing? From one of the most important things when we started this for me and Leo were to shout it out loud to everyone that we knew that we were going to sail around the world, because we needed to let everyone know, also because as soon as you say it out loud, then you can't not do it. Then you have to do it.
Yeah.
That was very important for us, to shout our dreams out loud.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's kind of like what you said. Like once you're in too, once you bought the boat, it's the same thought process. It's whatever it comes, you just have to deal with it. So once you've said it, you got to do it, and once you have it, you got to deal with whatever expenses come your way and
Yeah,
Yeah.
figure it
exactly.
out.
Yeah, we got stuck with it.
Yeah, let's get into that. So you find the boat, you find it in Italy, and you're bringing it back around to Denmark to do the work. And
Yeah.
on that trip, disaster strikes, and you run aground, and you run aground pretty hard, which triggers insurance claim survey. And during that survey, a lot of other problems are found. Leo, do you want to walk us through a little bit of the can of worms that got opened when that survey happened?
Yeah, we had sailed the boat from Italy to Denmark with some super skilled skippers that joined us so that we could learn as much we needed to while sailing our boat to Denmark. And then we did an exhibition of the boat at Copenhagen Boat Show. And we had taken out all our navigational equipment because we had just done a partnership with Garmin, and we wanted to showcase their equipment for the boat show. But we haven't actually had time to like properly mount everything. So none of it was working. It was just there to be displayed. And then we were sailing our boat from this boat show and just around, yeah, it's a really short trip, a couple hours to the shipyard where we were going to refit our entire boat. And this is where we grounded the boat. We hit a rock with 6 knots of speed. We didn't have sails up, but yeah, we weren't taking on water, luckily, so we could continue and go to the shipyard and bring it on land.
We thought we were taking in water because Leo was behind the steering and I was sitting on one of the benches in the cockpit. And then as soon as we hit it, I look down and I just see that the floorboards are wet. And I turn around to Leo and I'm like, fuck. This is shit. Also, because if we're taking in water this fast, then we're gonna sink in a matter of seconds. And then I turn around again to go down and deal with it. And then all of a sudden, all of these fumes of red wine just hits my face. And then it's a wine bottle that has smashed on the floor.
Yeah. For a second there, we thought that we were about to actually create our own dive site rather than sailing around the world to find dive sites.
Would have been the worst. See, I'm sure the thoughts going through your head too are like, You don't want the haters to be right. I'm sure there were people who thought you couldn't do it, and you're just like, no, they cannot be right. They
Yeah.
cannot be right.
It was gut-wrenching feeling to be grounding your boat like that, and just that sound of hitting the rock and the entire boat just doing like a hard stop. It was the worst, seriously the worst. We arrived to the shipyard in the middle of the night, so we couldn't even have someone to come look at it like immediately. So we had to just go back to bed and hope for the best when the boat was being hauled out the day after. And it was then hauled out the day after. And the thing was that when we bought our boat in Italy, we had a surveyor from Denmark flying out to Italy and doing the whole survey on land and test sail and blah, blah, blah. It was a 2-day show. And he found some minor cracks in the bulkhead, so like the vertical beams in the structure of the boat in front, like in the front part of the keel, like above the keel. And he was like, nah, it's a minor like repair. It's just a bit of fiberglass, blah, blah, blah. You'll be fine. And we were obviously worried that those would have turned worse from this happening. And so we get the boat on land and we have the shipyard come look at it. And initially we can't actually find anything. So we're like, oh, okay, this boat maybe was able to hit a rock with 6 knot speed without actually breaking. And then actually, I think it's a week later or something, we start emptying the boat. And all of a sudden, we can't put our floorboards back into the right places. It's like they don't fit anymore. We opened the engine hatch and we can't close it again.
Not a good sign.
No, really not a good sign. And then in our minds, we were a bit like, maybe it's just because the boat is on land, and when it's sitting on land, it'll always be supporting a bit on the keel. So there is a different pressure point. Just twisting
a little bit.
But we're also still green at this point. And we eventually just take all the floorboards out in the entire saloon. And Sissel and one of our friends, Robin, find this huge crack that's just fresh fiberglass, wide open, like from just behind one of the beams, like on the F side of the keel, from one corner to each like side of, how do you explain that? Yeah, reaching out from the center of the boat to each side, right? Mm-hmm. And we have these built-in water tanks. It was going like in between the corner of those, and we were like, okay, this is bad. And now, luckily, we're insured, and we have really good insurance, and they were there immediately covering like everything that happened regarding this. But when the shipyard starts working on this and actually taking the boat apart, they found that the boat is actually in much worse condition than we thought, and that there's a lot more of these cracks in the bulkheads that are old that the surveyor we had didn't see. And because it's from the previous owner, the insurance company is not going to cover us. So actually they find out that the boat has been grounded before. It's also been repaired before.
And none of this was caught in the survey you had done. That you had a survey done before you bought it, and all of that was missed.
He found the small cracks in the vertical beams. And I think now we know that if you find small cracks in the structure of the boat on the front side of the keel, you should suspect that there would be even worse on the back side of the keel. Mm-hmm. But we couldn't access them during the survey. But when you ground a boat, the keel will be pushed up in the back of the boat, right? Yep. So that's where the worst damage is going to be. Yeah, that someone should have known.
But so this is expensive. I mean, there's the first thing when you open a floorboard and you see cracks like that, and you're working on the budget you've taken a loan out on the boat. You're 23 years old. You've convinced your friend Sis to go with you. The first thing that's got to be coming to your mind is, oh shit, is this an absolute budget busting deal ender? Sis, as this stuff's being discovered, where is your mindset? Where are you with this?
Like, me and Leo have never ever talked about giving up or anything. We were just like, every time we hit a new challenge, and even though that it was like a lot of 100,000 Danish crowns challenge, we never looked at each other and were like, okay, well, this was it. We just looked at each other and was like, okay, but how are we going to solve this? And it was more in like, we just focused on how to fix it and how to move on, rather than seeing it as some sort of defeat. Mm-hmm. But yes, there was a lot of crying involved, and stress, and late hours in the shipyard, and it was not a good time to be Leo and Sis in that period of the project, because the shipyard kept finding more and more and more.
So then bring me back now, Leo, into kind of fast forward a little bit into the findings. You've got cracks. It sounded like the Beneteaus are built. If for anybody that doesn't know, these Beneteaus are built as a hull, and then instead of pure bulkheads, they usually have liners, and the hull liners have the stringers, and they get mooged and glued into place. And it sounds like your inner liner stringer system had detached from the hull as well. Is that correct?
Yes, so this was the worst finding that they came up with, was that one thing was they found all the cracks in the stringers, in the liners, but when they actually start cutting out in the inner liner to do the repairs, they found out that the inner liner, so the entire skeleton of the boat in the entire saloon area, had popped off the hull.
Mm-hmm.
So it was no
Yep.
longer even attached to the hull.
They're glued in. They're glued in. They're not tabbed in Beneteaus. So that's one of the things people will talk shit about Beneteaus for, is they put Sikaflex or some sort of glue,
Yeah,
right, and they mooge it in there.
exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
and they only do it right under the stringers, so there is hollow spaces in between, and then they're
Yeah.
supposed to just be glued down like where the beams are. But none of it was sticking anymore. Like, we saw all the pieces when they cut them out, and we could see all the glue, and you could just see that none of it was attached to anything.
As much as I would love to nerd out on how you repaired it, did you glue it back? Did you tab it in? Tell me a little bit about what this racked up to be. Obviously, I think everybody at this point understands this is a major repair job. This is more than you're probably going to YouTube and do it yourself. What were some numbers? Like, what kind of bills was the boatyard telling you that you were looking at?
It ended up, well, it started small, and then you know how like time goes, and it takes more time than we expected, and it always like increases. But it ended up costing, we got a bill, like a pro forma invoice of 100,000 euros, and
Whoa.
30% of this was insurance covered, because it was now all of a sudden it's a problem that's a mix of our own grounding and also like stuff from the previous owner. And so our insurance company covered 30% of it ish. The rest we just had to find ourselves. And like Sissel says, we never really discussed, like, we never looked each other in the eyes and went, are we sure we actually want to go forward with this? But I think that's also to do with the fact that we have a boat that we just took a huge bank loan in. It's sitting in a shipyard. It's completely taken apart. The keel is off. The inner liner is cut into. There's literally like holes through the hull because of the repairs. We can't really back out. We can't sell the boat. We're never going to get the money back.
Yeah.
So obviously there's only one way, and that's to figure out, how do we solve this? How do we move forward? That's a day by day process. And Sissel said a whole lot of crying.
Two people, typical friends, don't get involved this much in these kinds of projects. I think it's obviously an incredibly strong, and I wouldn't say abnormal, relationship, because maybe a lot of people haven't tried this with their friends. They haven't tested that. Let's rewind a little bit when you were little. And have you ever really thought about, what was it? Did you play on sports teams together? Did you have crises together you solved as kids or in high school? What do you think created this bond between the two of you that gets you through this kind of stuff, sis?
That was when we lived in Thailand. I had a really bad scooter crash, and I got sent from Koh Tao to Koh Samui, and Leo was with me all the time, and she was hospitalized with me for a week in a hospital in the middle of not any, like, there was nothing around the hospital, so it was basically just me and Leo in a hospital, and me in a bed being drugged all the time because I was in so much pain. Like, I broke my arm 3 different places, and Leo saw the bone in my ankle because all of the, like, I didn't have any skin on my ankle, and it was tough. And Leo was like my rock during that week and helped me a lot. Leo would have to put me in a wheelchair and drive me to the toilet so I could pee, and she would have to shower me, and she would have to shave my legs, and da 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 da. And that bond was created basically after that scooter crash. It was also before, but we hadn't experienced anything like traumatic or as bad as that.
Yeah.
And from there on, we just knew that whatever happens, we will always be able to count on each other.
Yeah. What do you think,
I think
Leah?
we honestly really bonded over Yeah, I think it was just all the traveling. Like when we were in high school, which is where we knew each other from, we were in this like big group of girls. We were 12 girls, really close. And when you are in these big friend groups, there's always some people that you're closer to than others, obviously. And me and Sissel were never super close. And it all really happened after we finished high school and we started traveling together and living together. And I think we found that we were each other's like perfect partner in crime, and that we were 19 when we moved to Thailand together, and we're 23 when we decide we want to sail around the world together. And I think there's not a lot of people who would do that alone, and we definitely wouldn't. So we needed each other a lot to do
Yeah.
all the things I think we both really wanted to do in life, and it's just so much more fun when you get to do it with someone else.
Yeah.
And
I'm
yeah,
gonna
so
go
I
ahead
think
and
we just became each other's perfect. Yeah.
your video froze, but your audio was good there, Leo. That was great to hear. I think I can go ahead and say that is something that two dudes cannot do. I went sailing with my best friend from high school when I was 18, and we ended that trip in, regular fist fights and bloody noses. And, we're still best friends to this day, and we still travel and surf together all over the world. But the kind of patience and understanding I don't think is something that two guys can survive as long as you all have and have cared for each other and seen each other through that stuff. So I don't know, it's a special bond you both have, but I think it's something that a lot of people can relate to with and maybe dream of to do with their friend. And I think what you're talking about as far as doing it together, having somebody else to do it with,
Mm.
just makes everything so much more fun and more special.
Yes.
Yeah. But also, there's no doubt it's not like we don't want to romanticize this whole story either. It's not all obviously we're best friends and we love doing this together, but we also had to find each other in this. And we also disagree and we also get annoyed with each other. And like, we're sharing finances, we're living on a boat together 24/7 year round. I mean, there's no one you spend such intense time with as a person you're sailing around the world with.
Yeah.
And we've really managed to find like an amazing way of doing it now. But it also took us a while once we actually left Denmark to figure out, okay, what is our roles on this boat? What's your role? What's mine? And how do we do this and work together to create a really good space also for all the people that we have with us sailing? Yeah.
So, if you had one tip, sis, for two people that are going to go out on a boat together, what would be the one thing you would say to two friends or a couple or anybody that's going with somebody else to make it healthy and fun and make it work?
I think one of the things that me and Leo did wrong in the beginning was that we forgot to be best friends. So we would more be like partners in the sense of work. So it would more be like a colleague kind of relationship, and we forgot to enjoy of like long walks, go on friend dates, and do all of the stuff you normally do with a friend. And we would only talk about practical stuff instead of like, how do you feel today? So we were
Wow.
like we missed out on all of the best friend communication.
Yeah.
And it took us a long time to get back to that state of mind where it's no, we're not two colleagues sailing around the world, we're two best friends sailing.
That's incredibly self-aware. How did you come to that conclusion? Did somebody help you figure that out? Was that from some soul searching? Is that what came out of an argument? Like, how do you come to that kind of a deep conclusion?
I think it came out of an argument.
Yeah, I was just about to say, I think that came because it had to.
Argument. Yeah, without that argument, we wouldn't have come to the conclusions and found out like how to reconnect and find each other again.
This is honestly why I love doing these, because after sailing my whole life and now sailing with my wife for over a decade and two kids, I'm going to take that piece and hold on to it, because I think that is like something that people forget. It becomes so transactional on a boat. It becomes like you find your roles, like you said, which is important. And then you're on a mission, you're stressed or you're elated. But even when you're elated, it doesn't turn into remembering who you were without the boat. And all of a sudden, the boat becomes the center of your universe. And I love that. I love that. That's awesome. You mentioned there having people on board. I think we had an anonymous question here a minute ago in the Q&A about how you're funding your travels. And so I think let's just touch on that. We talked a bit about how you had the dream, how you funded the boat to buy it. Everything got smashed up. Without glossing it over it too much, you worked your butts off and you got as much support from the community as possible to help fund the repairs. But now that you're out there and you're underway, how do you continue to stay underway? Leo, sorry. She might be frozen. I think, yeah, her screen's frozen. Sis, why don't you take that one on how you guys are staying underway?
Yes, we knew from the beginning, because we were 23 still when we decided to do this, that we didn't have a big savings to go around the world, just the two of us. But we also knew from the beginning that we wanted to bring other people on board because we are only friends and we need more people to, how do you say that? Like, we think that most experiences are better if you share them with other people. But we also have, we call it crew on board. So they pay bunk money each day to be on the boat. And that's how we fund our like circumnavigation as well. And then also I'm a dive instructor, so we also do dive courses where we also earn money for the boat because we need to pay the insurance and the bank loan and all of the spare parts and everything. So bringing people on the boat is for financial wise, but also for like health, like mental health for me and Leo.
Yeah.
And we love bringing new people on board, and because sometimes out here you can stop to appreciate like the smallest things. So when you've seen like 1,000 turtles, then you might not get up in the cockpit every time that there's a turtle. But every time we bring new crew members on board, they get so excited about seeing a turtle.
Yeah,
and
right.
therefore their energy just goes straight into you, and then you just adapt to their energy, and all of a sudden you feel as amazed by seeing the same turtle the 1,000th time. And all of these experiences with new people who has never experienced it before, they just become so much bigger and greater, even though we have tried it before. But yes, we've essentially financed it by bringing people on board. And then we tell them that paying bunk money is like paying rent for an apartment, but this apartment just moves around and you get to do a shit ton of cool stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. And you got, I think a lot of people will see people your age out there sailing around and they assume you either are using mom and dad's money or you are somehow making money as an influencer or something like that. And I think when we were chatting earlier, you made it clear that you don't have paid sponsors and you are able to fund this in a way that anybody could, right? Anybody can offer bunk space on their boats. Anybody can try to turn their boat into some sort of an income generator if that's one way they want to fund it, right?
Yes, because we don't get paid partnerships through our Instagram. We only do the bunk money thing, and then everyone can bring crew on board. So it's not like we're not doing charter. So it's not like you get food cooked for you and da 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 da. All of the crew members, they participate in cleaning days and work days, and everyone has their own food day where they do dinner for all of us, and everyone has their own dishwashing day, and we teach everyone how to use the dinghy so they don't have to rely on me and Leo to go to shore. So it is like we want them to have Lulu Tao become their homes as well, like as much as it's also ours, so that they feel a part of Lulu team.
And that's what you all did as well, right? You got a chance to go sailing with somebody in French Polynesia, and that's where you caught the bug.
Yeah, exactly. That's how like we found out that okay, there's multiple ways to do a circumnavigation. Also, the two guys that we went sailing out with was some of our biggest inspirations because they hadn't been brought up in a family where granddad was a sailor and dad was a sailor and they had sailed all their lives. They also just decided to do something humongous like a circumnavigation, and then they were like, okay, but how do we then fulfill that goal?
Yeah. You started as divers. Diving was your passion, diving was your hobby, and you've kept that alive. The photography that you all do is unbelievable. The underwater shots are spectacular. There's so many people cruising around with bicycles and surfboards and dive tanks on the deck of their boat that never get used. they're sitting there. They had great ideas and great intentions when they were going cruising, that they're going to sail around the world and surf. And then all of a sudden it's, oh, the surf spots aren't necessarily the good anchorages. And the timing is hard for the seasons for whatever other hobby they have. How have you both kept diving as such a focus and not let the time constraints of cyclone seasons and cruising hurricane seasons and all of that kind of affect or does it affect it? And it's always a balance. Leo, I think you're back. Let's hear from you for a sec.
Yeah. Sorry, my phone overheated. I lost the. I think, honestly, we haven't always felt like diving was the most like fun thing in the world since we started the circumnavigation. And I also think that it's really dangerous sometimes to turn your hobbies into a full-time thing. For us, it's also a job. Sissel is a dive instructor on board. She teaches the people who come sailing with us. That's also a way of an income. And sometimes we have to dive places that we don't necessarily really want to because it's interesting, but we have because we're doing courses and because we want to give the people that we have on board like as many dives as possible in the time they join us. So there's definitely times as well where we felt that less inspired to dive too. But I think it's for us, you get a bit spoiled as well when you've been diving like the most beautiful places in the world, such as in French Polynesia. And then you're places that are less interesting, or like you said, you sail somewhere where it's more practical for the boat to be, but not necessarily to go diving.
Yeah.
And I think for us, we just really had to make this setup as easy for ourselves as possible. We have to be like, practically we have to have a setup that's super easy so it doesn't become this huge job every time we do it. We bought a huge outboard engine for a dinghy. That was an investment worth it so that it would be easy to get to the cool dive sites even if the boat is far away. And there's all these small steps that we had to do to just make it manageable for us. And that helps a lot. And being in French Polynesia, where it's just like the most insane diving in the world, it's just really hard not to love it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's one of those things where when you actually get underway and you get going, you start to realize everything you thought is going to change, right? All the dreams that you had aren't gone, but they need to be adjusted. And some people adjust really well, right? They go, "Oh, okay, we're not going to surf every single day," or whatever it might be. We're not going to eat fresh produce all the time like we were hoping, or whatever part of that dream was. But rolling with those punches is critical to being able to do it long term.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
There's so many things we're doing completely different than we ever imagined from home, because we just found that this is what works for us practically. And on the boat, even the smallest things that you're used to doing when you live in a house, like doing laundry and cleaning and getting groceries and all these things that you're used to having as a tiny side thing for your jobs in your life, on the boat, it becomes full day projects. And so you just, time is just a completely different size on a boat. And I think we both also had a lot of hobbies that we thought we would do on the boat. Oh, we would love to learn French and love to learn to play, I don't know, the ukulele, whatever. So many things. You're like, we're going to have all this time in the world. And then we left, and that's just not the case.
Yeah.
I'm sitting right next to the guitar right now that I've had since April that I was supposed to start playing. And I can still only play Smoke on the Water.
Exactly.
Smoke on the water.
It's the easiest one.
Do you want to do it for us right now? Quick question. Do we want a performance?
It's so bad. It's so bad. I can. If you really want me to, then I can.
I don't know.
It's
Let's
very
hear
bad.
it. Anybody want to vote in the chat really quick if we want to hear Sis do Smoke on the Water? Let's see it. Yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and say yes. The answer is yes.
Oh, I regret saying yes to this.
Yes.
And I haven't even opened it in so long, so like the strings might even be
it should
rusty.
be nicely out of tune. It should be nicely out of tune. This is awesome. Leo, while Sis is getting her musical instrument together here, how do you handle the practice of a new instrument like the guitar when you're looking for some peace and quiet, or is it always entertaining?
It's actually usually quite entertaining. I think we've also been lucky to get people on board. The guy who bought this guitar knew how to play it. And there is honestly nothing like a peaceful moment on the boat when people are playing the guitar and singing songs, and it's just it brings us so much joy.
Yeah.
And it's just such a beautiful environment, and we love it. We love it. And if Sissel is gonna become great at playing the guitar, I'm all in for it. But so far, I haven't actually. This is gonna be the first time for me to hear Sissel play guitar as well.
Oh, nice. She's been practicing while you've been on vacation.
Yeah.
No.
All right. All
No,
right,
no, no,
Sissel,
no.
you're up.
But I think it's literally like six notes or something. I don't know what that's called. I don't even know what it's called. Okay, are you ready to be amazed?
We are ready to be amazed.
Okay, here it comes. Fuck! Wait.
That was good. That was good. Yeah.
That was basically it.
Awesome. That was awesome.
Yeah, sis.
Leo, when you get back, you get to hear that over and over.
Yeah, it's gonna be brilliant. I'm excited.
That was.
We have an unspoken rule that if you bring an instrument to the boat that you don't know how to play, then you have to practice in your cabin or in the bow of the boat.
Yeah, on land.
That's a rule for your guests. Yeah.
We had a guy, one of our best friends, Robin. He has helped us out massively with our entire project, like almost since day one. And he sailed with us for the first half year of our circumnavigation. And he brought one of those. I actually have no idea what the instrument is called. It's like the one that Peter Pan plays, that flute thingy. And he really wanted to learn to play that. And I'm so happy that he never actually brought it out once while we were sailing.
That is awesome. Yeah, there's like the bagpipe. The bagpipe's another one that you don't really want on a boat too, right?
Yeah, a heavy one.
No.
I'm going to take a second really quick just to bring some context to everything. I want to show some people, this is my shameless moment to promote SeaPeople as well. I do want to show some people some of your trips that you have logged and you've put into SeaPeople, and a little perspective on how far you've gone and where you've been. So let's see if I can get this so this is your interactive logbook, and it's scrolling through really quick some of the trips and some of the distance. And this is something anybody can do that wants to hop in and see more about what Leo and Sissel have done and where they've been and the logbook they've built. Where you can check out all the pictures, check out the track lines, see the stats, and see everything that went into it. This is a sneak peek of our newest feature, which is heat maps, and a really cool way that you can search. And people like Sis and Leo can do this as well. You're like wondering what boats like yours did. So right here, we were looking at the heat map, and I'm searching by Beneteau 50, which is what they have. And it's also, Lauren has a Beneteau 51, but close enough. And you can search the trips near you that are like that. And so I think it's a cool opportunity for anybody that uses the app, hopefully soon with these new features launching soon, to take a look at the most common routes people have been on, where they've gone, and then you can search for boats like yours. And then for anybody else watching from home, if you want to keep up with Leo and Sis, you can hop in, check out their logbook, search for their name, and tap on the interactive logbook. Immerses you a little bit in where all they went, connecting the dots between all the trips, and getting a real good idea of what it all means. A little deeper, I think, than you can with Instagram, right? Instagram is an incredible photo sharing app, and we're trying to bring a little bit of the depth to the story of, okay, cool, but where was that? And how long did it take to get there? And have other boats gone there? And then eventually, I think with these new heat map features and all of this Trip Explorer, being able to say, and what's the most common route to get there, and what's the most common anchorage people are going to, and visualizing all those trips. So it's really cool to see. And I'm Lulu Tao's adventures and the adventures that you guys go on, and seeing those trips in the app. And it's something that when you've known the story, and the cool thing is your story has a lot of depth, but it's still fairly short. It's not been that many years ago that you had a dream and you decided, I want to do this. We want to do this. We want to go. We got to figure out how to make it happen. And you did make it happen. And pretty quickly, relatively speaking, you are now sitting in the Pacific Ocean with your boat, which is incredible. I hope you both stop and pause every once in a while and go, wow, we did it. No matter what happens tomorrow, we did it. And where we got to today is something to be incredibly proud of.
Yeah. I think we're not so good at that actually, but with the sailing sport, it's just there's so many topics in it that you have to be like master, and you never ever finish learning about how sailing. So you can always like do better, be better, and learn more. And what you're saying now is a really hard balance actually, to remember to be proud of your achievements, but also accepting that you can still do even better too at the same time and never stop learning as well.
Yeah.
Really. Mm.
You've got a fun, before we end, I want you to take a second, maybe tell us a little bit about possible upcoming film project, at least briefly, so we have something to everybody has something to look forward to.
Yes, right now we are working on a film project about our Pacific crossing, which was in the beginning going to be a short film to promote a future bigger project, but then it turned into a big film, and now it's turned into a TV miniseries that's hopefully going to be done by the end of this year. So we had a videographer on board with us for our entire Pacific crossing. And
Oh, wow.
we've actually filmed the entire journey from Panama to Marquesas Islands. And this miniseries is going to be about this trip and also about Sissel and mine's story. So everything we've talked about today, how we got upon the idea, we actually documented a lot of everything that happened from home because we wanted to YouTube it and we never did. So we have so much footage from all of these incidents that happened that we've just never used and never shared. So we're really excited to like piece this project together and just have all our entire stories combined in one. And we're really excited to share that by the end of this year. But all
Are
of
you
it
allowed
really...
to tell us any detail? You say TV miniseries. Is this something you're hoping ends up on a streaming network, or is this for Denmark television, or like
Right now
where
we
can
have
we hope
no
to see
idea.
it?
Right now we have no idea whether it's going to be something that we share ourselves or whether it's going to be on a platform somewhere.
Gotcha. Cool.
Because we're in the editing phase. So we have an editor here in Canada that's putting all the pieces together, which is a huge project because it's 4 years of content.
Yeah.
And a big story to put into a docuseries. And then if we can sell it somewhere, amazing. If not, we're going to share it ourselves. Then, but the reason why we did this in the beginning was only to make a short video that we wanted to fund a bigger film project that we want to do in French Polynesia next year. Because one of the biggest dreams for me and Sissel, while being so passionate about diving, has also been to use our platform to also share environmental awareness. And when you're so in love with the ocean as we are, it's also really natural that you want to protect it as good as you can too. We're in pre-production right now of a big film project that we're going to shoot in the beginning of next year. That's going to be about how we travel and how we can make sure when we travel around the world that we give more back to the communities we visit rather than we take from there, and how tourism impacts the environment. And Sissel and I don't have the answers for the questions that we're gonna take up in this. So it's basically going to be a film following us while we want to learn what we can do better.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. Hopefully,
there's some incredible people cruising around the world doing incredible things. I think that's to have a reason and have a purpose is good. We've got veterinarians sailing around the world helping pets. We have people doing plastic pickup, and you have a purpose for your next phase of sailing, and that's something that I think will make everything more, I don't know, maybe more of a reason to get up every day and go, a reason to get to that island that looks like all the other islands, and something to do. And
exactly.
That's really cool.
Yeah, it's about having goals.
Yep. With goal setting, let's do, I like to do a quick recap at the end of where we landed and where some of these tips and tricks that you've given everybody are. One of the first things you said about getting underway and making it happen is to go try it. You went sailing with your dad, which is great, but if you don't have a family member that goes sailing, you can always find somewhere to get on a boat. Not to plug SeaPeople again, but obviously that's a place you can find an opportunity to get on a boat. There's a lot of ways you can find, if you just put yourself out there, you can find your way to get on a boat. You went to French Polynesia to do it. You tried it, and then it all became natural, right? And so like the one takeaway I think everybody can take from that is go give it a try. The other thing that you did, and I think is important, was you planned and you made realistic goals, right? You wanted a boat and you made a plan for getting a boat. And then when you got the boat, you had a plan. I think it was a 2-year plan, but here's when we were trying to depart. It's not, tomorrow and now, and you're constantly frustrated that you're behind or you're broke or whatever. You had a realistic plan and you stuck to your plan and you executed your plan, which was cool. You also told everybody to not double their budget, but maybe say times 10, which I think is good.
Maybe we were a bit unlucky as well, but
Yeah, but a times two is good advice. Your advice about treating your boat loan like rent, right? It's a living expense and an experience expense, I think, is really good. And also avoiding the bank loan if you can. If you have another route to buy a boat, whether it's paying all cash for something that you can afford straight up, or maybe working with family, or however you could avoid the bank loan. It sounds like that was a nightmare. And then once you got underway, you figure it out, right? Just you figure it out, and the things that come at you, even if you didn't budget for them, they just become part of life as opposed to maybe a problem. What would you say, how important would you say having that experienced crew? This is one note I wanted to ask you at the end. You had crew with you from Italy to Denmark, and you said they were really experienced. How would you rate the importance for somebody of, even if you buy your own boat and you think you've got it figured out, of getting somebody on that can show you more than?
oh my God. For us, it was so important. Like, we literally could not have sailed our boat from Italy to Denmark without these people. We had only at that time been sailing in my grandparents' boat. It's a 32-foot boat from the 70s. It's like a tanker. It has absolutely no equipment installed. There's a compass. And you could ground that boat as many times as you would, nothing would break it. So it was a really good boat for us to learn to sail in, but it did not prepare us to sail a 50-foot Beneteau in offshore, like open ocean from Italy to Denmark. And the way we did it was actually just like those crew finder pages or SeaPeople now to find crew for you to join us. We just used some Facebook sites and we shared our story. We just bought this boat in Italy. Is there anyone who wants to help us sail it to Denmark? And we paid for our flights and we paid for the food on board the boat, but we didn't pay them as skippers because they got a great experience from sailing from. The first trip was from Italy to Portugal and then from Portugal to Denmark. And we learned a lot in the meantime. So it was just the perfect like win-win situation for us with them. And these people that helped us even now, like some of our best friends, and they still help us when we have problems and we call them and what about this and that. And it was for us like we couldn't have done it without them, for sure.
Did it increase your confidence level, sis, before you
Yeah.
were rolling? You just like knowing that there was that safety net of somebody with experience on board when you left from Italy?
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. It's tough elements out there sometimes, right? And I don't think people should be scared of sailing, but obviously sometimes as well, especially before we started this circumnavigation, sometimes we would get that feeling of, oh, when it hits right in your stomach and you're like, oh, I feel a bit uncomfortable about what do we do in case of this situation? And whenever we would have this feeling with something, we knew that it was because there was something we hadn't learned enough about. And we used it as a way of, finding our way and what we should spend more time on navigating through and what we shouldn't. And these people, to have this like safety net all of a sudden that we could call and ask questions about all these things were just like priceless for us. And I think the one thing that we've learned in this whole process was that the sailing community in general is just so helpful. Everyone wants to help everyone get on the water. It's just, I think everyone is so passionate about it that we just want for everyone to fall in love with it. And I think we were very honest about what we didn't know. We were reaching out for help whenever we were unsure about something. And that really carried our project a lot.
Sissel, how are you going to pay that forward when you have that kind of help and you have that kind of safety net? Like, how do you see yourself in the future? There's going to be people that come after you in 10 years and in 20 years and 30 years. Do you see that kind of now as like a feeling and a desire to make sure that you do the same for others? When somebody asks you if they want to hop on their boat with no pay to help them get from Italy to Portugal, is that going to be a yes?
Yes. Not as long as I'm still circumnavigating my own boat. But other than that, then yes, I would definitely want to help. Also, like in the sense of we had someone on board who had been sailing long cruises before, so something as minor as you should place your life raft here and not there because it makes it easier, and all those small things and steps in refitting a boat. It was just so nice to have someone on board. who had already done it before. We also have a crew member, a previous crew member, who's now asking me and Leo about budgeting and finding a boat and because he also wants to circumnavigate now. So we're also helping him already.
The circle, it's this circle, and you're in the circle, and that's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna end on a couple of things. One is a comments that I hope that you all take to heart that just came through the chat. Olivier, I think is maybe how you pronounce his name. I really must admit, they had a wonderful dream. They saw the finish line to hold on instead of all the bumps and the heavy weather during them. I love these guys. And then Mark says they are legends. And I hope that you take a few minutes tonight or 10 minutes after this podcast to soak in what you've accomplished, and that people truly are going to be inspired to do what you do, and you are inspiring them, and you're also part of the loop one-on-one with people, like you just said, Sissel, where you're already helping people like make those dreams happen, and that becomes part of the history of the world, right? Whether they write about it in a book or not, whether it becomes a TV show, that you're part of somebody else's life, you're part of the history of the world, and you're doing it right. And then the one thing that you said that I think we need to end on here is to remember to be best friends, whether you're sailing with your wife, your husband, your friends, or somebody new, to take that time to be good friends and not just crew members. And that will make for a lot more patience and a lot more fun in your days. So
yes,
Leo and Sissel, it was an absolute pleasure to have you. What a great hour of chatting. Thank you to everybody who joined us live for chiming in the chat. We will get this up on the podcast platforms, wherever you listen to your podcasts, and we will get it up on YouTube as quickly as possible for anybody that wants to watch the recap or share it. Thank you all for being here. Thank you for being such incredible users of the SeaPeople app and for contributing to the community there. Those track lines that you're laying down are going to be used by others to follow in your footsteps without you even knowing it, which is pretty cool. So yeah, thank you all, and really appreciate you today.
Thank you for having us.
Yes, thank you so much for having us.
All right, everybody. We'll see you for SeaPeople Live number 7. Take care.